Hi everyone, Auntie Lexi here. I got back from PAX West a few weeks ago where I played a ton of games. Now, I could have made a separate video for each game, and honestly, that's probably what the algorithm likes. But that feels like a waste of time. Not just for me, but for you too. So instead, I thought it'd be smarter to group these impressions together in a way that not only allows you to experience multiple games, but respects your time as well. I then put that idea to a poll, and you all agreed. Thank you for helping shape this video. Today, we'll be talking about the 3 games that I got to play at a secret Square Enix location. I know, right? First Nintendo, now Square Enix with their secrets. I got to play 3 games here. The recently revealed Octopath Traveler 0, the highly anticipated Final Fantasy Tactics The Ivalice Chronicles, and the conclusion of the Erdrick trilogy in Dragon Quest I and II HD-2D Remake, played in that order. All that said, I came into this meeting with the expectation that I would walk away with Octopath Traveler 0 being my favorite. Will that still ring true by the end of this video? Only one way to find out. But as with my previous video, a little caveat. While I was able to play each game for an extended period, I wasn't allowed to record direct gameplay. And to be quite honest, after my abysmal performance in Dragon Quest II HD-2D Remake, I'm kinda glad you won't get to see it. We'll get into that mess later when we talk about that game. But enough chatter, let's jump into things. Sitting down to play Octopath Traveler 0 was an overwhelming experience. It's been a couple of years since I last touched the series, so the tutorials were practically speedrunning me through Break and Boost, which I actually appreciated. What immediately struck me though was how much the game's look echoes the first Octopath Traveler more than Part 2. That makes sense since the tileset comes from the mobile game, which itself was based on the first. And to be clear, pointing that out doesn't diminish the fact that the series has always nailed its aesthetics. It's just a noticeable difference. The first thing that I got to try was the new city building system. As you progress in the story, you unlock buildings and recruit villagers, which gives you a reason to keep expanding your town. This demo didn't make it clear if those buildings affect your stats or unlock facilities like blacksmiths, but I'd imagine later builds will show that. It was still a solid taste, and honestly, the controls felt smoother than most city builders I've played on console. But I'm left really curious how much your town will tie into the story or party. Before diving into the dungeon, there was a short, voice-acted dialogue sequence. The performances were strong, and it quickly sold me on the characters, some of whom double as party members and townsfolk.
You have the nerve to address me like some kid? I'll have you know I'm 20 years old!
It's a small touch, but it added personality right before combat. The dungeon led to a boss fight, and embarrassingly, I had totally forgotten how to properly use Break and Boost, despite the tutorials, so the fight dragged on. What really shook things up, though, was the front/back row system. It's like old school Final Fantasy, except here, characters swap with their partner in the back row. Back row units don't act directly, but they recover HP and SP and build BP, so when you swap them in, they can unleash a full burst of damage or healing. Bosses lean into this design with double-digit shields, practically demanding that you rotate both rows and manage everyone's BP. It makes fights longer, but also much more strategic. In the end, I walked away intrigued by the potential of town building, and especially excited about how the back row mechanic changes the flow of battle. But for now, I eagerly anticipate Octopath Traveler 0's launch on December 4th on major PlayStation and Switch platforms, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. As I sat down to start Final Fantasy Tactics The Ivalice Chronicles, I knew that Square Enix was gonna do good by this game. Ever since rumors swirled, longtime fans have been hungry for confirmation, and when it was finally announced, it instantly became a must-have for the year. That being said, what I played didn't turn out good. It turned out incredible. By now, the brand new intro sequence is out in the wild, but when I first started the game in Enhanced mode, you can choose between Classic or Enhanced, I saw the opening play out in all its glory. At first, I assumed it was just an upscaled version of the War of the Lions cutscene on PSP. But as it went on, I found myself thinking, wait a second, this is completely new. I sat there in astonishment, marveling at how the whole sequence zeroed in on the ruse about to unfold. Then, as expected, the game switched into in-game visuals, and that's when my jaw dropped. In the dev panel, the art director explained how they didn't just want to preserve the pixel art, but also emulate the warmth of CRT displays, something LCDs simply can't do natively. The result is this classy canvas-like texture that adds richness to the characters and gives everything a painterly quality, like the game itself is a moving painting. Lighting has also been reworked to add more drama, and the familiar textures from the original now carry extra depth while still keeping the same mood. On top of that, there's a new depth of field effect that occasionally shifts focus to whoever's speaking. You see it right after the first battle in the flashback with young Ramza. The foreground blurs as background characters talk, then the focus flips, subtle but effective. And let me be clear, this doesn't happen in every scene. The depth of field effect is used sparingly, only when it makes sense, so it never feels gimmicky or overdone. Simply put, the visuals in the Ivalice Chronicles feels special. Every detail carefully considered to refine the picture while honoring its CRT roots. And the wild part? We're still only talking about the presentation. As previously revealed, the dialogue has been completely rewritten to fit the new voice acting, and I can confirm the game is fully voice acted.
For generations, we Beowulfs have stood foremost of those who serve the crown. Ours is the soul of the night.
I let every scene play out, and what stood out to me was how much the new script brings out each character's personality. I loved the writing in the original, but at times, it felt like everyone spoke with the same author's voice. Here, each character feels distinct, their lines carrying their own tone and presence. And yes, that does mean some iconic lines are gone. The lead's famous "blame yourself for God" isn't here. But the new lead-up is so rich, and paired with the performances, it lands in a way that feels natural. One fun detail my friends and I caught. The narrator begins with the voice of an old man, but when the story shifts into the past, his voice changes to a younger version of himself.
Records of the hero Delita Hyrule first appear 1 year before the outbreak of the War of the Lions.
It's subtle, the kind of detail most players might not even notice unless someone points it out, but it shows the level of thought put into the presentation. As you might expect, battles now come with a ton of quality of life features that make the game feel modern without losing the challenge. Though, yes, you can toggle the difficulty if you want a less punishing run. One simple but effective update is the ability to fast forward through other characters' turns, which cuts down on downtime and speeds up battles considerably. The only catch? It also speeds through voiced dialogue, which feels like a miss. Hopefully, Square Enix can fine-tune that. But the biggest change for me is something small on paper but huge in practice: the new reset move command. In the original, once you move a character, that was it, like dropping a chess piece. If you picked the wrong tile, tough luck. Now, if you realize you've made a mistake, you can simply select Reset Move and reposition before committing. Your move only locks in once you hit Wait and choose the direction you're facing. It sounds simple, but it completely changes the flow of combat, letting you experiment with positioning without wasting a turn on a misstep. Honestly, it might be my favorite change in the Ivalice Chronicles. What's amazing is that despite all these changes, Final Fantasy Tactics itself remains intact. The new features feel more like carefully chosen icing, and maybe even a few pieces of fruit added to the cake, complementing the flavor instead of covering it up. You can tell the people working on this remake love the original, and that care shines through in every detail. There's plenty more I could talk about, like the Chronicles of the New Era, basically a super encyclopedia of the game's world, or even the ability to run from random encounters on the world map, unless you're the type who wants to grind. But the point is clear. The developers really thought of everything, even down to recovering pieces of the original source code that fans have preserved in, let's just say, interesting ways. Without that effort, this project might not have existed at all. If it isn't obvious by now, Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles has absolutely taken the top spot out of the 3 games I've played so far, even though I still have Dragon Quest I and 2 HD-2D Remake left to go. And the best part? We don't have to wait long. The game launches September 30th on major PlayStation and Switch platforms, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. After grabbing a quick snack, I made my way to the Dragon Quest I and 2 HD-2D Remake station, where Square Enix had set up demos for each title, showcasing some of the key features they wanted to highlight. The first demo focused on Dragon Quest I HD-2D Remake. When news broke that the hero would now face multiple enemies in battle, fans started to worry. Combined with the promise of a new storyline, some felt these changes might just be unnecessary padding for what has always been a short game. Square Enix has insisted that the added story content won't bloat the experience, but until now, we hadn't seen how multiple enemy encounters would actually play out. This demo finally gave us that answer. In this remake of the first game, you can now collect books that expand the hero's arsenal with spells he never had before. The idea is to keep combat brisk even when facing multiple enemies. Instead of dragging fights out, these changes add challenge without bloating battles, letting you cut through groups almost as effectively as if you had a full party. I played through most of the demo and even took down good old Robin Hood, which reminded me just how much I love the voice acting in the series.
I swear upon my soul to mend my wicked ways!
So far so good, right? That is, until I played Dragon Quest II HD-2D Remake. And honestly, you're partly to blame. Yes, you, in the back, the one who said Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake was too easy because you could pick up weapons and armor right off the field. This demo finally let me control a full 4-member party, including the brand new Princess of Cannock. But even with her in the lineup, it wasn't enough to carry me through this grueling dungeon. The whole point was to show that the devs heard the feedback and are leaning back into challenge. To prove it, they dropped me into a tower that my party was clearly underprepared for, technically beatable, but only with careful navigation and strategic fleeing from fights. I did manage to claw my way up to the top, but by the time I got there, I had burned through all my MP and had nothing left for the boss. According to Square Enix, only 2 players managed to reach that point and actually win all day, and I was sadly not one of them. If I'd had the chance to grind a bit first, maybe I could have pulled it off. But the message was clear. This isn't going to be a cakewalk like Part 3. Tough dungeon aside, none of this dampened my excitement for the full release. It's been ages since I last played through the entire Erdrick trilogy, and I'm eager to see how these remakes strengthen the connections between all 3 games. For many who played Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, it probably wasn't obvious how it'll tie into Parts 1 and 2. But Square Enix assured me that the payoffs at the end of both games are so satisfying that they make the trilogy feel far more cohesive, to the point where the older versions almost seem like 3 loosely connected titles instead of one unified saga. And the best part? We get to play it next month, on October 30th, across all Switch platforms, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. If I had to rank the 3, Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles would be at the top, followed by Dragon Quest I and 2 HD-2D Remake, and then Octopath Traveler 0. But as I joked with director Kazutoyo Maehiro and art director Hiroshi Minagawa, I don't want to stir up any drama, because honestly, I really enjoyed all of them. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 3 are on your radar, and what excites you most about them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. And if you want more coverage of upcoming JRPGs, indies, and niche titles, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've still got impressions to share on Onimusha, Way of the Sword, Ys 10, Proud Nordics, and plenty more, and subscribing is the best way to be sure you won't miss them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.